but it's still 3 points. And I think defensively, they didn't have a single shot on goal in the whole game. Yeah. That tells you not just the defence, but the whole team, the way they worked, and they worked their socks off to stop that happening. So welcome back to BCFC Royal Blue. This weekend has been a good weekend for Birmingham City. Another 3 points at home to Exeter City, and teams around us dropping points. So currently Blues sit quite handsomely at the top of the table with a 2-point lead over Wycombe Wanderers as we go into our next set of fixtures. But in this podcast, myself and Matt are going to be looking back at the Exeter game, just giving our just general views on the game and a bit of analysis as we always do. So Matt, Exeter City at home, 1-0 narrow win. So what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I'll start it off by saying that was arguably one of the most boring games of football I've seen in a long time, isn't it? No, I say that in jest, but I think I want to start this one off with some positives, Dad, because, you know, we got 3 points. We're top of the league. Everything's very positive at the moment. And we can go into the game in terms of where we think we can improve, especially in the final third. But let's start it off positively. You know, there was a really nice appreciation for Arthur in his memory.
Yes.
The whole stadium clapped at 6 minutes, including the Exeter fans. Really nice sort of memory there for Arthur.
And Ethan Laird put his shirt up when he scored the goal, which was a fantastic tribute.
It was. It was quite emotional.
I always feel emotional, obviously, because obviously you've got young children. Obviously, at some point you were that age as well, and I always feel gutted every time we celebrate Arthur's passing. Yeah. But fair play to the Blues fans. It was very respectful, and I think it's nice to remember him.
Yeah, because I've got my eldest son's coming up to 6 this year, and my youngest is 3.5. So again, really close to me. Emotional attachment there. And the Stansfield with the Exeter fans, I know Sook from Punjabi Blues had a hand in getting that in the stadium, so that was really cool and good to see as well. And you know, we'll get into the game in a minute, Dad. It wasn't a perfect performance. It wasn't a great game of football, but as I said at the start, 3 points. We're top of the league. We've got 2 games in hand. We're undefeated at home. And I think the success story of this game against Exeter was our defence and our defensive contribution. I mean, it was outstanding. We've only conceded 2 goals in our last 10 league matches. That is outstanding. And for me, from this game, Dad, I want our defence and our defensive style of part of the game to get the accolades for this performance.
Can you remember the last time we conceded a goal at home in the league?
So Barnsley comes, just in terms of talking it out, Stockport away comes to mind, Barnsley comes to mind. Last one in the league, was it?
At home.
Northampton?
It was. 9th of November was against that last minute equaliser.
Why does that game keep popping up, Dad?
Yeah, maybe I asked you that question because I just wanted to keep reminding us of that. But it shows you how we've tightened up defensively. And I think you're right. I think you have to appreciate that in this game, we got 3 points and it wouldn't have mattered. We could have hammered Exeter 9-0. Played fantastic football, and we still would have got 3 points. And I think you have to appreciate in this league. We'll talk about Exeter in a minute and the way they set themselves up and the way they played actually. But it's still 3 points, and I think defensively they didn't have a single shot on goal in the whole game. Yeah. That tells you not just the defence, but the whole team, the way they worked, and they worked their socks off to stop that happening.
Just to clarify that, Dad, that's not no shots on target. That's no shots.
No shots
completely.
Yeah.
In fact, I don't think they got the ball in our box.
Well, I read somewhere it's a stat. It's the first time ever since Opta Stats started to record this time that's ever happened.
Yeah.
I'm sort of, again, it's all right saying, we want to play pretty football, and we would love to see a bit more attractive football. There's no doubt about that. But ultimately, the aim this season is to get promoted. It's about getting 3 points. We did that. And that is real down to the way these players worked really hard. Because, we didn't have... our midfield was definitely not our first choice midfield. We had a lot of key players that would normally play that were missing. And I thought it was a really hard-working, industrial experience against a very physical Exeter team.
Also, Dad, I think we need to get into as Blues fans, we need to get into the mentality. We're not going to hammer teams this season.
No.
Teams park the bus. They play this physical game. Against Exeter, Dad, how many shirt tugs were there? How many dirty fouls were there? How many interruptions to play? I mean, they were a dirty team. Ryan Woods, I weren't surprised when he got booked early on, but that they were very physical. They'd obviously been told to... They started off with a 5 at the back anyway, but they were obviously their game plan was to disrupt, and they were very, very physical, and it really did disrupt the game. And there is a line between being physical and being able to be competitive
and being just dirty.
Yeah.
And I think some of their tackles, and I think the referee was very lenient with them in the first half.
You know, when you look at a stat sheet, Dad, you look at shots on target, possession, 0, 0, 0. But at the bottom, 20 fouls and 4 yellow cards. That kind of sums it up, don't it?
Yeah, it's probably because they knew that that we were going to have a lot of the ball and they were trying to break it up. But some of their timing as well. I think the referee was very lenient with some of their. They did get 2 yellow cards in the first half, but that could have easily been 4 or 5, easy. I mean, they were very, very dirty, and they got away with some fouls that they should have been. But just before I've got a note on my notes as well, just to mention Vincent Harper, their player who got injured at the end. It looked like a very serious injury. He was treated for 10, 15 minutes. All the medics were there, the doctors. But thankfully, he's been discharged from hospital. He's back home now, and he's got a concussion, so he's not completely off. But it's good that that wasn't anything more serious. So we're happy to announce that's where he is. But
he left a nice message on social media and just said thank you to the Queen Elizabeth in Birmingham and thank you to BCFC and Exeter. So nice to see that he's back, because football is it is more than a game, but ultimately the players.
Yeah, you don't want to see anybody.
No, exactly.
And it did look serious when it happened, but then obviously the activity soon after suggested that it was something quite.
This is exactly why refs stopped the game for head injuries, isn't it? Because that didn't look that serious, but clearly he was in quite a bit of distress. So.
Going back to the team then. So on the starting lineup, there was no Paik or Iwata, no Williamson, no Anderson. We know that Williamson and Anderson were injured anyway. So that's basically our first choice midfield completely gone. Yeah. Okay, so that wasn't there. We had Taylor Gardner-Hickman and Leonard in the centre of our midfield. Harris at number 10, Laird at right back, and Bielek started on the bench. And we had Hanley and Yokoyama on the bench as well. So Grant Hanley came in for his first opportunity on the bench. Didn't get on, but he was there. So I think a lot of people were surprised not to see either Paik or Iwata there, and that sort of shows you that we can grind out a result, because I mean Taylor Gardner-Hickman was outstanding in terms of his energy, and he was everywhere, wasn't he? And it shows you that we have got players to come in, but I think we suggested that their midfield of Taylor Gardner-Hickman and Leonard, they're both there's no sort of Paik style midfielder in there, is there?
Leonard would be your Paik style, and Taylor Gardner-Hickman would be a Water style, because Taylor Gardner-Hickman's got the physicality. He breaks up play. I mean, did he stop running that game? He was at the engine room, weren't he? He was absolutely everywhere.
He was brilliant, wasn't he?
And then Leonard is more that progressive kind of midfielder. However, you've said it before, Dad. It does highlight how much we miss Paik.
Yeah, and Chris Davis suggested that it might be more of a problem than we actually, which is a shame, because obviously we've got 2 big games coming up against Wrexham and against Huddersfield.
Hopefully he's playing mind games. That'd be nice. But
I'm not sure he is. I mean, I think because I think we were expecting at least Paik to be on the bench today. There was no news on Iwata at all, which I find a little bit strange. But obviously, we can't do anything about it. You know, when the team selection is made for Wrexham, we'll see who's fit and who's not fit. I think we do starting to see how important Williamson is for us as well. He has these games where he goes off the ball, Williamson, as well. But we do lack a direct, creative number 10. Yeah. And I think you can definitely tell when he's not in the team. Yeah, people can criticise Williamson. They say he's very quiet in phase of the game. He is. But, he pops up with a goal or a brilliant pass when he needs to, and that's lacking at the moment.
Williamson in the 10 is great. Yeah. It's when Williamson's out on the right is when he becomes ineffective. In the 10, again, appreciate he has had moments this season where he's gone quiet, especially the latter part of this sort of first half of the season. He had a few quiet games, but Harris is similar. I think he can have really quiet moments in games and can disappear. I'm still scratching my head a little bit about. We can come back to this in a little bit, Dad, because I guess we're jumping the gun on certain things. But in terms of Harris and his loyalty to him, I still don't really get that, if I'm honest. So I think we have better outlets. I would have rather seen Leonard in the 10 maybe for this game. But anyway, it is what it is. Chris Davies is the manager. But for me, I think our energy and our press. We smothered them. We didn't let them move. We suffocated them. And it just shows no matter who's on the pitch, because our midfield was completely different, we're still sticking to the same principles of that high press, that high energy. And that was encouraging to see because the reason why they didn't get a shot, the reason why they were resorting to fouls is they were chasing shadows, and also our energy and our press was just forcing them into... There were quite a lot of individual errors again. Luckily for them, there was no individual errors which allowed us to score a goal, but they were kicking it out for throw-ins and sloppy passing and letting us in and all these different things. So, yeah, I mean, I was pretty underwhelmed with Exeter. I thought I seen Exeter as a quite progressive football team. I thought they liked to get it on the ground. I thought they liked to play. But actually, watching that game, they would just come out to the bully boys, didn't they? They come out to kick us off the park. That was very bad. They didn't even have a go. That was a bit disappointing for me. I thought they were at least going to come at us a little bit, especially when we were 1-0 up. But it almost, again, League One, Dad, they were almost time wasting 1-0 down.
They were. I think partly the fact that they didn't have a go was because of the way we were pressing them as well, and I think we suffocated them a little bit. But they were. It was disappointing to see the Exeter team come out and play like that. I mean, there was no need for some of those tackles that they made. But you're going to get this in League One. This is the problem. You're going to get teams when they come up against teams near the top of the table. The best thing they can do is sort of circle the wagons, get the tackles in, park that bus, and they did that, which surprised me a little bit. And when on hindsight, you think, well, they're not on a great run of form. They've lost a lot of players through injury, and they've had a lot of players called back. Not a lot, but a number of players called back from loans. So they had some youngsters in there as well. And they would probably argue that we should have beaten them more than that. But it doesn't matter. We could say that for a lot of teams, but they did what they needed to do, I think, to try and stop us. But ultimately, it was just like Chris Davis has always said, we just need to chip away at teams, and that's what we did.
Yeah, definitely did. And just going back to the number 10 conversation, because a thought has just popped into my head. You know who I want in there? Like Asgard from Wigan, or like that the Nottingham Forest number 10. I forgot his name. He's a really cocky, arrogant guy. Yeah, he scored the other weekend away at Wolves, I think it was. I forgot his name, but really good. But they're a number 10 kind of
Gibbs White.
Yes, Gibbs White. That's the one. Yeah, just has that swagger, has that kind of no fear. He kind of. Even though it's an arrogant, cocky thing, that's the way they play because they create loads of chances because they've got no fear, they've got confidence, and that's kind of what I want to see from our number 10s. Anyway, possibly a different podcast for a different time on that one, Dad. But I was really impressed with that. I mean, my only positive, I guess, to the way Exeter played in terms of the physical battle and the fight was actually, I think it got us quite well prepared for the Wrexham game because, again, we are going to do a pre-match Wrexham game video, but they're a very physical team, aren't they? Yeah. They're going to try and kick us and beat us as well. So this game was almost like a precursor for the Wrexham game in some regards. Yeah,
I think Wrexham will be a bit more progressive in terms of they will have a go try, like lumping balls in. We'll come on to that in a minute when we record that video.
Just the physical side, though.
It's good. It's almost like a sparring game, ready for that game, wasn't it? Bit, but back to the game. First half was, again, some decent football from us, but a lot of tippy-tappy football, keeping possession of the ball. But we did eventually get the breakthrough in injury time. There weren't many major chances to really reflect on in that first half. And to get the goal when we did was actually quite good. We did need that, really. Obviously Exeter would have gone in at 0-0 at half time. Just gives them something to hang on to. But it was a good goal. I mean, Scott Wright had a shot which was parried by the goalkeeper, and Alfie May chased it down, caught it just before it went out, put it back across the box, and Ethan Laird side-footed it into just inside the.
So happy for him.
It was so much because he's come close a few times. I can't remember which games. One, he's had a header that's been brilliantly saved by the goalkeeper, and he had a couple of other chances to score. But that's his first goal for Birmingham City, and he was so pleased, so pleased, and we were all pleased for him, wasn't it? But he was there. He was in that position. He, considering he's a right back, he shouldn't really be. It was effectively the number 9 position, but he was. But I think Chris Davis has told him to, obviously on attack to stay. Yeah. Stay forward. But good goal, 1-0, and that sort of was basically right on the cusp of half time, wasn't it?
As you say, they'd had a very forgettable first half, weren't it? Not much happened. In fact, that goal we scored was pretty much our first clear-cut chance, weren't it, really? Yeah. And first clear-cut chance of the entire game. I mean, me and you sat there or stood up at half-time, didn't we? And we kind of looked at each other because we have chats at the games about the podcast and the game and stuff. And we almost looked at each other and went, what on earth are we going to talk about that first half? It was just rubbish. I mean, just rubbish in terms of like entertainment. Not much happened, not much goal scoring opportunities, and I think that comes on to the bigger question, Dad, about Blues and about our creativity moving forward, because there is definitely room to go at teams a little bit more, isn't there? And I appreciate it wasn't a full strength team. Appreciate we had to kind of nullify Exeter's dirty tactics and get over that as well. There were different factors in this game in which we had to get over, but I feel like Blues going forward, we still need to be creating a little bit more, don't we?
Yeah, but then you'd argue that you can't really have it both ways. We've just talked about a defensive record. Would our defensive record be that good if we went gung-ho at teams? Because we're going to expose ourselves at the back by doing that. So it's a bit of a balance, isn't it? That yes, of course, we all want to see more attractive, creative football. But then do you want that at the expense of conceding goals as well? Because
I don't agree with that. I don't think you have to sacrifice your defence. I mean, yeah, fair enough. You are going to be a little bit more vulnerable if you commit more players forward. I'm not talking about committing more players forward. I'm talking about better decision making, shifting the ball quicker.
But that's been a problem in a lot of games.
Speeding the tempo up, picking the runs out. There's little things we can do without sacrificing our defensive ability that just make us a little bit more dangerous.
Yeah, the tempo was slow in that first half. We mentioned that as well, didn't we, when we spoke? And we always seem to do that at St Andrews. We seem to be very slow and sluggish compared to the second half of games. But maybe that's a tactics. Maybe Chris Davies has basically instructed the players to, keep the ball, keep chipping away, and then increase the tempo. I don't know. It was 1-0, and then the second half, obviously, they came out. Sort of 1-0 up. Scott Wright, he looked okay. He looked all right in phases, Scott Wright, but I think you can still see he's just still returning off an injury. So he just sort of lacked that burst when we needed it sometimes. But he was energetic, and I think he gave the ball away a few times. But I think he's still a little bit rusty from his injury. But he looked okay. He had a chance where he decided to shoot. He could have laid it off to Alfie May and would have been in a better position early on. Luke Harris, I think he picked up the stray ball and had a shot, but it wasn't really a massive goal scoring chance.
Half chance.
And then Chris Davis made some substitutions. I think around about the hour, brought on Yokoyama, and he looked lively, didn't he?
He did,
But also as well, and you can see what this conversation is about Yokoyama. He lost the ball a lot as well, didn't he? And I think that's where Chris Davis is coming from. He's saying, well, can I trust this young lad at the moment from the beginning? Because if he does that early on in the game, it could potentially cost us. So, but he was lively. He had a couple of little jinks and shots and stuff like that, his usual self. But he sort of just brightened things up a little bit. But again, wasn't a massively fantastic second half either, was it?
What I like about Yokoyama is he's direct. He gets the ball, and I think he's becoming a little bit readable because he gets far and cuts in, don't he?
Yeah.
And I noticed the right back for Exeter, he knew he was going to cut in. So I think they did their homework this time on Yokoyama, and they knew what he was going to do. By the way, I think Yokoyama's a great player, and I think for this season and maybe even next season, if we get back to the Championship, he's going to be an impact sub. You 1-0 up, you 2-0 up, maybe you've got a draw, but you're in that 60, 70 minute mark. Yeah. He can come in and make some impact, don't he? And if you want a 2-0 up, sorry, actually more 2-0 up, you can be a little bit more afforded him not tracking back as much. And I think with these kind of players, you have to accept there's a sacrifice, isn't there? We just had a conversation about, do we sacrifice our defence to score more goals? With Yokoyama, you might have more exciting attacking options. He's direct, he's quick, but we do lose a little bit of that defensive ability, don't we? So I think for now, that 60, 70 minute mark is Yokoyama's sweet spot. I think he's going to come on from that point and be an impact sub. And I like that outlet for him.
And so if we do get back to the Championship as well, then I think we'll see more of him on the bench because we'll have more subs on the bench as well.
Exactly.
It's Exeter, there's not really anything to talk about Exeter in terms of chances because they had none.
No.
And I think that demonstrates this league, isn't it? I think this is the problem we've got. When teams do that, and they're set up like that, it is a tough nut to crack. You're not going to get free-flowing, attractive football because they're going to break everything up. And they got so many players at the back. They're energetic. They had a few phases of decent football, but they never really threatened us at all. And that was disappointing because I think that would have opened up gaps for us. But overall,
red card as well, Dad, for Exeter.
Yeah, right at the end. And again, it was deserved. I mean, I looked at that, and he deserved. And I said to the guys on the other side of me, I said this was early in the game. I said someone's going to be sent off. This was right at the beginning of the first half.
So did I.
The way that they were flying in and stuff like that, and as it happened, and I think the ref was lenient. I actually do. I think there should have been more yellow cards. And I
remember looking. I remember looking at you, Dad, 5 minutes in. I remember saying someone's going to get sent off in this game.
Yeah,
I could feel it, and.
Well, it was right at the end. That was in 90 plus minutes, wasn't it? We had about 12 minutes.
But in all seriousness, Dad, this is actually a serious conversation, a topic, because the refs need to put a bit more defence in for some players. Because Cochrane in the first half had an absolute terrible challenge on him, and it got completely.
Yep.
It was a foul,
yep.
No card, not even a conversation from the ref to the player, and he absolutely went through him, to the point where he could have injured him. And there was a couple of other challenges from the Exeter players. I thought that could have been an injury. To the refs, fair enough. I know they want to try and play a free-flowing game, but you have to put something in to protect the players at some point. The refereeing is disgraceful.
It's terrible. It really is bad. And so their players are running around almost breaking our players' legs and ankles, and they're getting nothing. And then he books Clara for saying something to him.
I know.
I mean, obviously, you can get booked for the way you say things to referees. I know that, and there's no need to disrespect referees, but you think, well, the guy nearly broke his leg and you get nothing, and you're booking him for a few words. And that was, I think, the Exeter player dived, and Clara said to him, look, you're not going to book him for that, and then he booked him. He booked Clara, so I just find the whole thing's inconsistent.
And also, Dad, an Exeter player made a foul in the first half, got a yellow card, and he was giving the ref dissent right by us in the corner flag, and he wasn't like a little bit of dissent, he was being really aggressive. And if you're going to be consistent with what Clara did, it's a red card, it's a double yellow. You have to stick to the rules of the game. You at least have to have a baseline of consistency, because I think I've said this before, and it might sound a little bit quirky, but if they're going to make rubbish decisions, but they're going to make them consistently rubbish, you can kind of get on board with it. But when it's over here and it's over there, and it's the different over here, different up there, it's like, well, what kind of game are we watching here? I can't get on board with it. It drives me absolutely nuts.
This is one thing about this league, isn't it? And that's something, unfortunately, we've got for the rest of the season. And we'll have to cope with it. But overall, for me, another clean sheet. Conceded 2 goals now in the last 10 league games, so we've kept that consistent. And that, you see, that's the thing as well, Matt, is that these clean sheets allow us to win games narrowly. If we were like the start of the season where we're making mistakes, that would have been a draw, or even, let us say, a defeat. Because we wouldn't have been defeated in this game, so I didn't have a shot. But do you know what I'm saying? It's just that if we just concede. Or don't concede any goals, it always opens up the possibility of a 1-0, which is exactly what this was. As I say, Exeter were very physical, and I think they're over physical as well. And people might say, well, it's football. Well, actually, that wasn't football. That is dangerous play on certain occasions, and it shouldn't have been allowed. And their fouls disrupted the flow of the game. But really impressed me, I think, for the whole game was, we can always, Blues fans can say it was boring and we wanted more attractive football. But ultimately, look at the hard work of our team and the press. Ultimately, that's what won us the 3 points. I've put here as well a note as well. I'm not convinced about Luke Harris at number 10. I don't think
said that earlier.
You did, but obviously it's one of mine. So I don't think that we get enough. I don't think we get enough out of him at number 10. But he seems to be, like you mentioned, he seems to be a favourite of Chris Davis. I think when Williamson's come back, that is his position. I don't know how long he's out for as well. But 3 points, top of the league, and we got 2 tough games now. I think with the results this weekend, with Wrexham losing at Shrewsbury and Huddersfield drawing at Blackpool, it just gives us not breathing space, So it just sort of doesn't take the pressure off. It means that we've still got a little tiny bit of a buffer if we don't get wins against either of these two. But I like I say, I want to go and watch attractive football, but ultimately we all go there for 3 points and to get promoted, and that's what we got.
I think
not the promoted, but we got the 3 points.
I think we're limited with our ability to play sexy football, because when teams come and park the bus, it makes it extremely difficult. So I think we have to get on board with that. And obviously, I started with the joke saying that was one of the most boring games I've watched for a while, and it was, to be fair. But actually, it doesn't matter. We got 3 points. We're top of the league. We've got 2 games in hand. Everything is looking very, very good. And my final note, Dad, before you close it off, is just got a few mentions. Ethan Laird, great to see him get on the score sheet. I thought he had a good game. Cochrane, we haven't mentioned him specifically. I thought he had a great game. In fact, he was level for man of the match for me with Taylor Gardner-Hickman. I thought Cochrane was brilliant.
Just on Cochrane as well, we need players to anticipate when he gets the ball free, he's going to cross it. He puts a load of good balls in, but there's nobody there.
Yeah.
And I think that he's got that cross in him. So if you're a Lyndon Dykes who came on as a sub, or you're a striker, anticipate that he's going to cross it, because it seems a waste. He does all that work to get a pitch. There's a fantastic whipped cross. Nobody there.
Well, we never have anyone at the back post. It always just goes directly over, and no one ever goes onto it. Anyway, again, different conversation, Dad, for another time. Ben Davies, just class, reliable, solid. And then my man of the match was Taylor Gardner-Hickman. I thought he was outstanding. The engine room, didn't stop running. What a player he is. Put him anywhere.
And well done to Laird for getting his first goal. That's, on the back of the Wigan performance, now he's got a goal for the club. Hopefully, he's going to carry on now in the ilk of what he's been doing, because he's definitely a quality player. And he's starting to be a bit more effective now, which is what the criticism was. So if he can keep doing this, he's going to be a big player for us for the rest of the season.
And one final comment, Dad, because this really made me laugh. Someone on X put, and I didn't, obviously Ryan Woods used to play for us. I didn't even really notice it back then, but they said he looks like a toddler with a full nappy running around the pitch.
I saw that.
Because he's got a funny run, hasn't he? Anyway, that really made me laugh. But,
But that's what we think, Blues fans. Ultimately, it weren't the best game in terms of football-wise, but we still got 3 3 points, and we're still at the top of that league. And we're just ticking more fixtures off, so we just need to keep going. But we'd love to know what you think, what your comments are about the Blues, about the performance, and pop us a comment below. If you're an Exeter City fan, let us know. You must be disappointed with that performance from your team. I know that you came to Birmingham City, you're top of the league, but surely if you travelled all that distance, you want to see at least a shot on goal. But anyway, we'd love to hear your comments below. So pop your comments just below the video with the Blues fans, and we're always happy to hear them. If you did like this podcast, and as always, then don't forget to give us a thumbs up. And if you haven't looked at our social media channels already, then pop along to our X page and our Instagram page. And if you like watching your podcasts on Spotify, you'll also see us on there as well now. And you see the handles appearing on the screen for all these right now. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already, then don't forget to hit that big red subscribe button. And if you want notifications for future podcasts, then hit the bell icon next to the subscribe button just to get notifications every time we put out a new podcast. So that's it for this one. Hope you've enjoyed it. And myself and Matt will see you on the next one, all about Birmingham City.